Hello and welcome to Integrative Wisdom's today's office view. I'm Verna, and on Mondays we like to do a little segment of Integrative Wisdom that has to do with the workplace. And given that we are in a time of epic proportions, I thought we would just take a moment to talk about how that's sitting with everyone that does find themselves either headed to the office or working from home during this time of great upheaval. And it can push so many of our buttons, right? Potentially people of habit and routine and expectation that the way that things were yesterday is the way that they're going to be today and tomorrow and next week and next month. And we've been given an opportunity to see that everything always changes and that it's uh, an opportunity for us to learn how we deal with that. How flexible are we? How resilient are we? How willing are we to examine the skills and tools that we have to be as effective as we can be during times of great change, right? So, first of all, I just thought, to do any of this work, we need to, what do we need to do? We need to stop and we need to listen in. And so, if we were to do that, if you were to do that, I just had a couple of reflective questions about this time. And, um, maybe a question would be, what's most challenging for you during this time? The most difficult, in other words, the most challenging or the most difficult. What's the most intriguing about this? Has there been anything about these changes that have flexed your creativity muscle and allowed you to puzzle things out and to maybe come up with some solutions that you might not have ever imagined that you could come up with? Um, and maybe even, what do you miss the most? Um, I know when things were changing at my place of employment, um, I walked into the personal story. I walked into the office one day, and the company, the powers that be, had come in during the weekend or the night, whatever it was, and without warning, had taken all of the furniture, all of the desks, all of the file cabinets, and pushed them all up against one wall. And so they were stacked, 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 so that you could not get to your personal space that you used to have. And I remember how I felt when I walked in and I saw what had been done without any warning, without having any time to prepare, without being able to take things out of my desk and have access to my files and all of those other things, that would make my job work, basically make my work work. And this may not be that drastic, but it may be that drastic for you, that you're ripped out of your office, that you're ripped out of your routine, even something as maybe as irritating and challenging as a drive to work. You don't have it, haven't had it for months. Um, anyway, so as we stop and we think about, this big, huge change that we found ourselves in, sometimes it's good to go over those reflective questions and to ask ourselves, okay, so what are those things that I'm noticing about this? First of all, the external, right? And then how is it sitting with me personally? So, what am I noticing about my coping mechanisms, my strategies to make it through this moment. Mine was to get mad, to call the powers that be and say, "Hey, what was this about? Couldn't you have thought of another way so that you could have prepared us?" So I needed to take action. I needed to speak to someone and I needed to tell them, and now I wasn't ugly and I wasn't mean and I wasn't, like pounding on their doors, but I had to I had to respond to what I felt was a great disservice to me, not only to me, but to my coworkers. And so there was that protection that I felt for the people around me. And I needed to take action. So, what are you noticing? What are what is your personality, and how is that coming out with the things that you're working with every day, right? With the challenges that you face, and the what do we want to say? Just the upheaval. Okay, the upheaval. So, your personality, your traits, your habits, your ways of being in the world are not the same as your coworker, are not the same as your boss, are not the same as any of the other people that you work with. And so, you may wonder why people are responding the way they are. They're looking at you like you're crazy. Well, this is the core, the key to communication and to understanding is that everyone is going to look at things a little bit differently. Yes, you may have and probably one of your favorite coworkers who sees things the way you do, but that just means because that their personality is very similar to yours. Doesn't mean they're any righter than anyone else, which again can really muddy the waters for us. There is no right one way. You know, there may be a high road and a low road, but yet the road may meander depending on who we are. So to be aware of who I am, how I see things, what are my habits, what are my ways of doing things, how flexible am I to this time? Um, how amenable am I to change? I can tell you, self-disclosure is always helpful, right? It was hard for me. Change was hard for me, and so when especially especially if I felt like it wasn't in the best interest of my patients, that it was more for the company. It was a little bit harder for me, even though I recognize that if a company can't make it with their bottom line, then there is no company. But I had this deep sense of integrity, and I felt like, I felt, because I feel things. That's my personality. I'm not as logical as some others. So it took me time. It took me time to grow into those other ways of seeing. One is not right or wrong. They're more of the whole picture. So perhaps during this time, you might be feeling a little burnout. In fact, I saw an article just this morning where it was talking about that maybe people haven't been taking their vacation time because there's nowhere to go, or they feel like they have to be at work to stay up with all of the crazy changes that are happening, so they don't get too far behind because things are crazy enough as it is. But are you taking those personal days? Do you have even the luxury of doing that? Some jobs don't even have that. So you may need to take a mini break, many breaks during your work day and your work week. We've talked a little bit about some of those ways, which can be as simple as just taking that step back, closing your eyes, and taking that breath, and just giving yourself, 5 seconds, 5 seconds even, because it can help reset the craziness that can go on inside your brain when you're trying so hard to hold it together. Okay. Another thing is as we're doing this work, we're observing and discerning, but we're not judging. So that judging lens is too harsh. It's too harsh and it's not helpful. It's not helpful. But discernment is helpful. And we don't beat ourselves up. We just notice, oh, this is my particular way of doing things. It's not the only way. It's not the right way, which can really wreak havoc with some of us who want to be right all the time. This is a learning time. Make no bones about it. Make no doubt about it. This is a time to learn. This is a time to really delve into what makes you tick. And as you learn what makes you tick, you can also learn ways to moderate or to bring in additional tools so that you become a better version of you, not a version of somebody else. It's not what we're talking about. We're talking about you not letting some unconscious reaction take over. And it happens to all of us. It happens to all of us, especially when we get stressed. We go into the mode of routine and least resistance. So we want to be able to have a variety of responses kind of at our fingertips. And I talk about toolbox. I talk about first aid kit. That's what integrative wisdom is all about, is helping us to know that there are so many ways that we can tap into strengths and gifts and not allow our limitations to rule the day. Okay, so today, challenges: take action. Take action to begin this process of noticing, of discerning, and being able to shift, being able to recognize your way is not the only way, and that others' way is not the only way, but that as you realize there is a way that you have chosen, to discern, is that the best? Or would it be more helpful if I learned new additional ways? Okay, more bandwidth, healthy bandwidth. So anyway, I hope this is helpful in some ways as you start going about this brand new week that we have, moving us into a brand new month, right? Yeah. So many blessings upon you. And don't forget, tomorrow is Integrative Wisdom. Wednesday is Soul Catalyst Card Deck Day. And Thursday, brand new Elders Who Care. All right, guys, I look forward to spending more time with you.